Hello everyone and welcome to this course for preparing your certification of Professional Google Workspace Administrator. What are we going to talk about in this course? We are going to introduce the Google Workspace platform and domain management. We are going to talk about main domain configurations. Then we are going to introduce basic administrative operation inside the management console. And then we are going to talk about service configuration. Then we will move to monitoring and reporting features of Google Workspace. And finally, we will see some troubleshooting features that are available inside this platform. Then we will talk about next steps to gain your Professional Google Workspace Administrator certification. Before starting this course, we need to prepare a demo environment. First thing to do, if you didn't do already, please set up your computer language in English United States. This is because if you choose a different language, CSV files that will be used for some administrative tasks could use another separator rather than comma, typically semicolon, and this could lead to some problem when uploading and downloading the CSV files. After that, you need to sign up for a Google Workspace trial of 14 days. To do so, you can choose three types of edition: Starter Edition, Standard Edition, or Plus Edition. My advice is to choose the Business Plus Edition. To register and to learn how to register for a free trial with 10 or fewer users, you can go to this website. Once you have registered your free Google Workspace account, another piece of advice is to use Chrome with profiles as browser. Specifically, the best thing to do is to create a specific profile for this course with the Google Workspace email address that you just created. To learn how to use profiles in Chrome, you can visit this web page. Okay, so let's start. To verify the domain ownership, let's try to get a demo account from Google Workspace. To do so, please navigate to workspace.google.com/demo. Okay, let's start. Let's click on Get Started on the top right. Okay, let's choose a business name. So my first name, last name, and my email address. Okay, let's create a new Google Workspace account. So now it's asking me if I do have my own domain. I have one. Another option is to click on No, I need one, and buy a new domain directly from Google. We will use my own domain in this case. And let's type here the domain name, that is trainingxyz.it. Let's click on Next. Okay, do we want to use this domain to set up the account? Yes, let's click on Next. It's asking us if we want to receive advertisement. No, we don't, so no thanks. It's asking us if we want that Google sends our users advertisement. We don't want, so let's click on No thanks. Okay, now let's choose the super admin username and password. Let's start with admin@trainingxyz.it, and we can choose a password. Let's click on the CAPTCHA. Let's click on Agree and Continue. Okay, now let's start. Let's put the super admin username that we've chosen 1 minute ago, and let's click on Next. Let's type in the password, and we are in. So, first of all, Google is asking us for a second factor of authentication. This is very useful for protecting our sign-in and our identity. So I will put my own telephone number, and I will receive a OTP. OTP means one-time password. It is a special password that lasts just for a few minutes. This is used to verify that we effectively own the phone number that we've just used. Let's click on I understand on the terms and conditions. And now we have our Google Workspace demo tenant. So which one do we want to use? We will use the business standard. Okay, let's click on try free for 14 days. Okay, here is a business account type, any tax information that we want to use. Okay, when we've finished, let's click on Agree and Continue. Please remind that you need to use a VAT number, and you need to put all the information of your company. Also, you need to use a debit or credit card to go ahead, the debit or credit card will not be charged. It will be used as a guarantee that if you don't delete the demo account before it expires, you will pay for the account that will become effective after the testing period. Done all the information, please remind again to delete your demo account once the demo is finished. Otherwise, you will be charged on your credit card. So click on Next. Okay, now we need to activate the domain for trainingxyz.it. So let's click on Activate. Okay, here are the instructions. Read the instructions, click on Continue. Okay, Google, with an NS lookup procedure, realized that my domain is register.it service provider. So what it's asking us to do is to add an MX record. First of all, go to DNS. Here is our DNS area. So I will add record. Record will be of type MX as instructed. The DNS record that I want to enter is aspmx.l.google.com. Please remind final dot. So I will copy and paste it here. So the value that we need to enter is aspmx.l.google.com, but instructions provide us a priority of 1. In register.it, we don't have a priority field, so what we need to do is put 1 before the address and then space. If you use a different provider, this could be different. So generally speaking, if you have a priority field, you need to fit it with 1 value. If you don't, you need to put 1 space before the address aspmx.l.google.com. In the name area, just copy and paste the name of your domain. Please remind that for most of your domains, you need to add trainingxyz.it. The final dot most of the time is very important. Let's click on Apply to check that everything is correct. Continue. And here it is. Your MX record has been correctly registered. Another very important thing is please verify that in your list you don't have any additional MX record for the domain trainingxyz.it. In our example, we have another one, but it's not on the same domain. It's on the domain pack.trainingxyz.it. So it means that we can have some addresses that have the domain pack.trainingxyz.it. So for example, we can have admin@packtrainingxyz.it and admin@trainingxyz.it. They will be 2 different domains, so they will behave differently. So we can have MX records for different subdomains, but only MX records provided by Google for our demo and test domain. So let's continue with the verification. Another MX is with priority 5 and with this server address. So add another record, priority 5 space. Let's change with MX record and the domain will be the same. Why are we adding other records? This is for business continuity purposes. So this is priority 5 again. This means that if the first server is not working, the server with priority 1, we will use the server with priority 5. And with the servers with priority 5 are not working, then we will use the 2 servers with priority 10. So we have 5 options. This is why Google is able to grant a very high service level agreement. Okay, let's add the last one. So we are basically telling to the DNS system that if a mail is addressed to any user that has trainingxyz.it after the @ sign, this will be redirected to Google mail servers. Another good thing is please do not choose the time to leave of 3600. Leave this field blank, TTL, because each service provider has its own default time to leave that is the best one for that specific service provider. So when we're done, let's click on Apply, Continue, and finally, let's check that everything is correct. If we want to be sure, Before activating Gmail, we need to add an additional field. This is called verification field. The verification field will be deleted after the verification. It's just for verification purposes. The 5 MX records that we've added right now are MX records that will let the users to send and receive emails from their own mailbox. This record is only for verification purposes. So once Google has verified that we own the domain, we can delete the record, and this is the best option. Okay, so let's add another MX record. Verification code is this one. It's randomic, so we'll change for you cannot use this one for another domain. So priority is 15. Okay, and perfect. This one is trainingxyz.it. So we've done. Let's click on apply, continue again, and now we can activate Gmail. So Gmail will check. We need to wait a few seconds most of the times. All the records have been correctly added, as you can see. Double checking. Okay, so now the domain is being verified and we're ready to go. So now let's imagine that we want to add another domain to an existing Google Workspace account. I've deleted my trainingxyz.it domain from the old account, and I've opened a new account. The main domain for this new account is trainingxyz.com. To add another domain, in the admin.google.com admin panel, let's click on Account, then Domains, and then Manage Domains. After that, click on Add a Domain. When we add a new domain, we have to choose between two options. The first one is to add the additional domain as a secondary domain. This is used when you want to manage separate teams of users at different domains that you own, or if you want to replace your primary domain with a secondary domain. For example, if you signed up for Google Workspace with your old primary domain, you can add the new domain for a separate team that you manage. In this case, each domain has a separate set of users. Users you add to the secondary domain get an email address for that specific domain. Users in different domains can collaborate with services such as Google Drive, Google Meet, Google Chat as one organization. You can make a secondary domain the primary domain for your organization's Google account. Another option is to add the new domain as a user alias domain. In that case, you can give users an alternate email address, also known as alias, at a different domain you own at no extra cost. For example, if you signed up for Google Workspace with your primary domain, you can add the alias domain to give users an additional identity. In this case, each user gets an email address at both your primary and user's alias domain. Users can send and receive email with their email address. Each mailing group gets an email address at both your primary and alias domain. So let's enter the domain name. And again, let's click on Add Domain and start verification. I won't show the verification process as it's exactly the same as the one that we saw when we added this as primary domain. Before moving on in our Google Workspace DNS configuration, we need to understand what an SPF record is. Nowadays, email security is very important. There are a lot of email-based attacks, most of them funding on spoofing. Due to this, it's very important to automatically verify email authenticity to avoid any further damage due to spoofed or illegitimate email messages. In this framework, SPF helps us reaching this goal. SPF, that stands for Sender Policy Framework, is an authentication method designed to detect and prevent email spoofing. Its primary goal is to help the receiving mail server verify that an incoming mail message from a specific domain is legitimate. How does this system work? The sender's domain publishes SPF records in its DNS domain name system. Please remind that only one SPF record per domain is allowed. To be more precise, the SPF record itself has been deprecated. So now, in most of the DNS systems, we use a TXT record that works as SPF. This record contains a list of authorized mail servers for that specific domain. Please remind that the maximum number of entries for an SPF record is 10. Which are the main components of an SPF records? The first one is the version of SPF being used. So for example, if an SPF or TXT record starts with v equals SPF1, means that the TXT record works as SPF records and is using version 1 of the sender policy framework. The include parameter specifies a list of authorized mail server. And finally, all denotes the policy for the rest of the servers. Let's make an example. We find that TXT records like the one in the slide means that the only server allowed to send email on behalf of domain, whatever it is, most probably example.com, is _SPF. A authorized the specify a record for that domain to be an authorized sender for that specific domain. For example, if you have a website that sends alerts or newsletters or something, this is a good option. MX parameter authorized the domain's mail server to send emails on behalf of that specific domain. Finally, include, that can be followed by IP addresses or domain names, includes SPF records of other domains. The final part of an SPF records could be composed differently. For example, if an SPF records ends with ~all, this indicates a soft fail, meaning that if a server is not in the list in the SPF records, should be treated with caution. So this will only increase the spam score for that specific email, but it will not necessarily force that specific email to be in the spam folder. -all indicates an hard fail, meaning that if the sending server is not authorized, the email address should be necessarily treated as suspicious. What are the best practices for managing SPF records? First of all, regularly update SPF records to include all authorized email servers. Second of all, avoid using -all, the hard fail option, if not all email want to know more about the SPF. You can check the Wikipedia page on n.wikipedia.org/wiki/sender_policy_framework. One of the most famous tools to check SPF records is the free one used by MX Toolbox that is available at mxtoolbox.com/spf.aspx. You can also check SPF records using the Windows command line tool nslookup. If you want to know more about this Windows included command, you can check learn.microsoft.com at the relevant documentation page. SPF record at our domain provider. In this example, we will add the basic Google SPF record, intending that no other SMTP server will be used in our domain to send legitimate email. The basic SPF record can be found at this Google Workspace support page. Before adding this record, please note that from this page you can click on the breadcrumb here on Help Prevent Spoofing, Phishing and Spam and see a lot of useful additional information about SPF, DKIM and DMARC records. Okay, now let's configure the record. First of all, let's copy the content of the basic SPF record. Let's move to our DNS panel. Let's add a record, and the record will be TXT type. Let's paste the content for the SPF record, and let's copy and paste our main domain, that in our case is trainingxyz.it. Let's apply the change, and after a few minutes, the SPF record will be configured. Just a quick note, as you can see, in the list of our DNS records, we still have the Google verification code. Best option would be deleting this record after you check the ownership of your domain. This is because it's completely useless to leave orphan records in our DNS. So let's click on the X and let's confirm that we want to delete this record. After that, let's click on Apply and continue. Let's now understand what Domain Keys Identified Mail, or DKIM, is. DKIM is an email authentication method designed to detect forged sender addresses in emails. It ensures the integrity of emails and verifies that they were not altered during transit. As a key benefit, it reduces the risk of phishing, spam, and email spoofing. But how DKIM works? The sending mail server signs the email with a private key, generating a unique signature. The signature is added to the email header as a DKIM signature field. The sender's public key is published in DNS as a DKIM record. Which are the main DKIM components? The first one is the private key. It's held by the sender and it's used to create the digital signature. The second one is the public key. It's published in DNS and used by receiving servers to verify the signature. The third one is the selector. It is a string in the DKIM signature field specifying which public key to use. And the last one is the hash algorithm that defines the cryptographic hash function used to create the signature. Here is an example. This is a DKIM signature, version 1, that uses a combination of Rivest-Shamir-Adleman or RSA public key signature algorithm and SHA-256 as hash algorithm. The domain is example.com and the selector is selector1. So here we have other additional information such as the public key and others. How can we verify the integrity of a DKIM signed email message? The receiving server retrieves the sender's public key from DNS using the selector. The received email signature is verified using the public key. The hash of the received email is compared to the hash in the signature to ensure integrity. Here is an example. As you can see, we have selector1._domain-key.example.com. Again, as we've seen for the SPF record, we don't have a proper DKIM record in DNS, but we will use the generic TXT record for it. Which are the common DKIM challenges? Key management. It's a good idea to safeguard and regularly update the private key. Selector naming. Choose a unique selector to avoid conflict. DNS configuration. Ensure correct publication of DKIM records in DNS. Algorithm selection. Select a secure hash algorithm for signing. Just to conclude, DKIM enhances email security by verifying sender authenticity and ensuring email integrity. You can consider implementing DKIM to reduce the risk of email-based attacks. Finally, please remember to regularly review and update DKIM configurations for optimal security. If you want to know more about DKIM protocol, you can visit the Wikipedia page at en.wikipedia.org/wiki/domain-case_identified_mail. If you want to have a tool to check the DKIM record, again, you can use the mxtoolbox.com/dkim.aspx, or you can use the Windows command line tool called NSLOOKUP. If you want additional information on how NSLOOKUP works, you can check the learn.microsoft.com relevant page. Let's now add our DKIM record. To do so, we need to go into our Google Workspace Admin Center at admin.google.com. Let's click on Apps, then let's click on Google Workspace left arrow, and once we have expanded this section, let's click on Gmail. In the rightmost part, let's move to Authenticate Email. In this area, we have two domains, the primary domain and the secondary domain that we have did before. Let's click on the domain we want to add the DKIM, that is our secondary domain in this case, and let's click on Generate New Record. First thing, we need to add the key length. DKIM protocol uses RSA cryptographic algorithm. RSA could use keys of different lengths. Google Workspace supports 1024 and 2048 bits. Of course, the default and best option is to use the longest key for security purposes. In case your DNS provider does not support such key length, you can still use the longest key and split it into two different records. So let's use 2048. Then we need to choose a prefix selector. Even this is an optional feature, the best thing to do is to use it. So let's choose LinkedIn as our prefix selector. Once we've done, let's click on Generate. Okay, we have the DNS record that is now ready. What is the value inside the TXT record? This is the public key of the 2048-bit RSA algorithm that we've chosen. So once an email is ciphered with the private key from Google Workspace, can be deciphered using the public key that each email client can find in the DNS. So we need to add a DNS record. Let's go back to the DNS manager. Let's add a record. It will be again a TXT record. Okay, the record name will be LinkedIn._domain key. As you can remember, LinkedIn is the selector that we've chosen a few moments ago. So let's copy and paste this into the name of our TXT record. The value will be copied and pasted from the TXT record value area. Once we've done, we apply. The record is ready, as you can see. After that, we need to click on Start Authentication. Please note that most of the time, this operation will fail. This is because the propagation time could be roughly 48 to 72 hours to fully propagate. So we need to wait 2 or 3 days before clicking on Start Authentication and using DKIM. Another thing to know is that if we don't set the DKIM record in Google Workspace, DKIM will be in effect, but the authentication will fail because DKIM will not be for our own personal domain or business domain, but will be done on the Google domain. Still, the integrity will be granted by the DKIM algorithm. Okay, let's move now to the last of the email security records, the so-called DMARC record. What is DMARC? DMARC is another email authentication protocol. Its purpose is to help preventing email spoofing, phishing, and fraud. The key components of this protocol are SPF and DKIM record. This means that you cannot set up DMARC record without setting up SPF and DKIM record first. The second one is the DMARC record itself. It is a DNS record that specifies how email from a domain should be authenticated. Let's now see how DMARC works. The sender publishes a DMARC record in its DNS. The recipient checks SPF and DKIM alignment. DMARC policies instruct the recipient on how to handle non-aligned emails. What are the benefits of using this record? Improved email deliverability helps email providers identify legitimate emails. Enhanced security reduces the risk of phishing attacks and email fraud. DMARC uses 3 policies: known, quarantine, and reject. Known is used for monitoring purposes without impacting delivery. Quarantine means that suspicious email may be placed in the recipient's spam folder. Reject means that non-aligned emails are rejected. Which are the implementation steps? First of all, we need to create and publish a DMARC record in DNS. After that, we need to perform a gradual deployment. We need to start with a known policy, monitor reports, and then adjust and tweak the policy moving to quarantine, and then reject based on confidence. DMARC also provide reports with insights with email authentication results. Analyzing these reports helps improve authentication and identify potential issues. What are the common challenges with DMARC? First one is false positives. This means that some legitimate emails could be marked as suspicious. Second one is configuration errors. This regards mistakes in DMARC record setup. And last one is with gradual implementation. Adjusting policies too quickly can disrupt email delivery. Many organizations, including major email providers, have now adopted DMARC. It is widely recognized as an important tool for email security. Let's now have a look at the best practices with DMARC record. First of all, remember to regularly monitor DMARC reports. It could be also useful to collaborate with third-party services for advanced DMARC management. Lastly, stay informed about updates and best practices. For this lesson, you can find a more detailed definition of DMARC on the Wikipedia page at the link shown in this slide. Also, you can find useful tool for checking DMARC at the second link available. Finally, if you want to test a third-party tool, you can use dmarcreport.com. Let's now create a new user account. To create user's account, we need to go on the Google Workspace Admin panel at admin.google.com. We have a couple of options to create users one by one. First one is in the home screen. Under the user style, click on Add a User. Second option is clicking on the left arrow on Directory, choose Users, and then choose Add New User. Okay, let's click on this. Let's first name, last name. Let's choose the primary email. Let's choose the domain. We will use our secondary domain. Let's choose an optional secondary email that can be used for password retrieval or optional phone number. We don't use any of these. Let's click on Add New User, and the user has been created. So the user has been assigned a provisional password. We can copy the password and manually send it to the user. If we set up a secondary email, we can also send, clicking on Preview and Send. And the mail address field will be filled with the secondary email user address. Another option could be printing the password and personally giving or sending to the user in another way. Once we've done, we'll click on Done. At the first sign-in, the user will be forced to change the password. Let's have a look at this. So let's open a guest page and let's go on gmail.com. Users will be hugo@trainingxyz.it. Now we need to see the password. Here is the password. Let's copy the password and paste it here. User will be prompted to understand, to take note of what he read, I understand, and will be prompted to create another password. Okay, now let's see how to upload a bulk set of new users in our Google Workspace environment. As usual, this can be done through the admin console reachable at admin.google.com. Then let's click on Directory and then Users. Then we need to click on Bulk Update Users. First part, we need to download the user info CSV file. We have two options. The first one is to download the template with some demo users to show us how this template should be filled in. The second one is to download the blank CSV template. If it's the first time that you are uploading a bulk set of users, my advice is to download first the user info in CS file and see how this should be filled in. If you are used to this, you can directly download the blank CSV template. Now let's see how this template looks like. This is the demo file. Mandatory fields are the first name, the last name, the email address, the password, the organizational unit, / means no organizational units, and the change password at next sign-in. If this is set on true, means that the user will be forced to change this temporary password at his or her first sign-in. If it's set to false, the users will be able to use the password that the administrator set for him or her. Okay, now let's use our real file. I've created 3 fictitious users, Aaron, Barbara, and Kola, and I put all of them in the main organizational unit, and Aaron and Barbara will be forced to change their password at their first login, while Kola will not. True, true, false. Okay, let's go in the admin center, on the dashboard, click on directory, users, click bulk update users, attach CSV file, users, and click upload. In progress. Can't bulk upload user info. Okay, when you make a mistake like this, you can know what was the mistake or the mistakes you made. So just clicking on see details, and you will see that 3 rows have errors. So each of the rows that we have uploaded have errors. If we want to know a detailed log, let's click on download log. Let's open it, and we will see that the error is for each of them OU invalid, means that the organizational unit is not valid. Okay, so let's open the CSV file again, and that's it. I've used the backslash instead of slash. So let's change this. Let's save, and let's upload this again. So bulk update users, attach CSV file, users, and upload. Okay, the bulk upload users info is completed. If you're not able to see the new users in the list, just press F5 on your keyboard to refresh the page. And after that, you will see Aaron, Barbara, and Kola. If we want to check if what we've said is correct, let's open guest. So let's go on, for example, gmail.com. Okay, first user is Aaron at trainingxyz.com. Let's put the password. Privacy note. As you can see, Aaron is forced to create a new password. Let's change. And let's do this with Kola. Let's put Kola password. Let's understand the statement here. Kola is not forced to change her password because we put false on the CSV file. Let's now see how to manage users in Google Workspace. Let's join our admin center, and then let's go into directory, users. Here we can perform some bulk operation. We've seen how to add a new user, to bulk update users. We can download the list of the user as CSV file. One short piece of advice: whatever is your country of origin, my advice if you manage infrastructure is to have your operating system in English United States. This is because the CS file, in this case, will be managed as a comma as a delimiter, and this will help you in several managing options that otherwise will be more complicated. So we can manage custom attributes, or we, for example, see a list of recently deleted users and other common things. We can also manage users one by one. For example, let's click on Aaron McGuckin. There are some options that we can do without even clicking on it, such as reset password, update users details, add these users to group, send an email to this user, suspend the user. For example, if user has a maternity leave, you can suspend this user while she is in maternity leave and then restore the user afterwards. We can delete the users, or we can change the organizational units that the user belongs to. If we click on the user here, we have some other options. For example, we can upload a profile photo, we can add an alternate email address. There are several sections that we can manage. Let's make an example. We can add the two-step verification on for Aaron. In that case, signing in with username and password will not be enough for this user, that will need to add another piece of verification. Or we can see which groups this user belongs to. Actually, Aaron is the owner of one group, marketing group, manager for 0 groups. We can see from here if this user has admin privilege that he has not. And if we want to change this, we can assign specific roles to these users. So if we click on Assign Roles, for example, we can promote these users to super admin, to group admin, or whatever we want. Or we can manually choose the privilege that the user will be entitled to. We can choose which apps the user can use. At the moment, these users can use 72 out of 77 available. We can manage a device if in our subscription we have a device management option, and we can change licensing for this user. At the moment, this user has a Google Workspace Business Plus license, he has a Chrome Browser Cloud Management license, and an Android Enterprise Free license. There is another license available that is Duet AI for Google Workspace Enterprise that has not been assigned to this user. Finally, we can add these users to shared drives, and we can see from this area if this user is already in any of the shared drives. Okay, now let's see how to create a group from the admin console. So let's go on admin.google.com with our administrator credentials. Let's click on Directory and then Groups. Now let's click on Create Group, and let's call this group Marketing. So the group email will be marketing@trainingxyz.com, and description we can type includes users from marketing department. Okay, groups. We can choose group owners. Let's choose Aaron, for example. Okay, so Aaron would be the group owner. And the groups can be used for two main purposes. The first one is mailing. Mailing, as you can see, is grayed out. This means that I cannot uncheck the mailing option. Mailing means that all the members of this group will receive an email message once the email message is sent to the group address. So for example, if I send an email message to marketing@trainingxyz.com, this means that all the members of this group will receive the same email message forwarded. The second one is optional, is security option. Security option is used to easily identify and manage groups. We want to apply policies such as access control, security label, and others. So let's create a mailing group only. Click on Next. Here we can choose the access type of this group. We have 4 built-in access types: public, team, announcement only, and restricted, and 1 custom access type. Every time we change the access type here, the access settings below change. Okay. What are access settings? Access settings are settings set up for different type of users. We have 5 different type of users. The group owner, that in this case is Aaron, the group managers that can manage the group, maybe with the different options in respect of group owners, but not necessarily. For example, for announcement only group owners and group managers have the same settings. Okay, and for any of them. Then we have group members that are simply members of the group. Then we have the entire organization that is trainingxyz.com in our case, and then we have external users. If you try to click on custom, it will not work. So how can we set custom access settings? Simply changing the settings here. So let's imagine that we don't want that group managers are able to manage members, but only to view them. We uncheck who can manage members, and as you can see, the custom option is automatically selected. So let's choose a public group. Who can join the group? Anyone in the organization can join, means that people in the organization can join automatically. If we want that people in the organization can ask to join, but after that need to be approved, we can click on anyone in the organization can ask, or we can choose to add in this group only invited users. Let's choose the last one, and we can also allow to join members outside of our organization that we don't want to in this case, because this is a marketing group, so all the members are internal. Okay, let's click on Create Group, and let's click on Done. After a while, marketing group will be available here. If you cannot see the marketing group, just refresh the page, and marketing group is available here. I want to manage groups. We have two options to manage group. If I am a superadmin or a comparable user, I can use admin.google.com. From the same place where I've created the group, so I go into directory, I go into groups, and then I go to the marketing group here, for example, I can manage the group. So here, I can change the group details, I can add group aliases, I can add label, I can rename the group, I can add members one by one or bulk, I can change the access settings, I can inspect the group, or I can delete the group. Another option is going into a specific interface for groups management, that is groups.google.com. As you can see, Stephen, that is a superadmin of this Google account, cannot see any group. Of course he cannot, because even he is superadmin, he is not the manager of marketing group. So this second option needs to be used by the managers of the group. So let's open now a guest account in Google Chrome and let's log in as Aaron. Aaron is the manager of marketing group. Here you can see in the list of groups that Aaron manages the marketing group. So for example, we want to add members. We click on this button and we can add Barbara and Kala. Okay. We can add managers. We can add other owners. We don't want to add anyone. Message, that is not mandatory. Welcome to the marketing group. And we can choose the type of subscription that can be changed afterwards by each single member. Determines how many email do you receive by that group. Each email means that every time someone sends an email to this group, each member immediately receives it. Digest means that each member receives an email at the end of every day or when the number of emails in the group reaches 25. Abridged messages are sent in bundles of up to 150, at least again once a day, or no email. In this case, group members will not receive any email, but they need to manually go to groups.google.com and check manually the messages. Okay, let's choose each email. Last option is this switch. We can choose to directly add members, so the members would be immediately part of that group, or if we deselect this, we can choose to send invites to the member. To be part of this group, then the members need to accept the invitation. Let's choose the first one and let's add members. All the other management options are available here. If a user is managing a lot of different groups, can select favorites group, clicking on this star. Once the user clicks on this star, the group is added to this list of favorite groups. Of course, we can deselect the star at any time. To create an organizational unit, let's go on the admin.google.com. Let's click on directory. Let's click on organizational units. And then let's click on create organizational unit. Let's call the organizational unit sales, description, sales group organizational unit. Let's click in the parent organizational unit, that is the main one, trainingxyz.com, the one that we've called / in the CSV file in the previous video. If we want to change the parent organizational unit, we can click on the pencil and change to another one. We leave as it is and we click on create. Okay, organizational unit sales has been created. Now we want to move a user to this organizational unit. So let's click on users and let's choose Aaron to be moved inside this organizational unit. Let's click on Aaron. On the left column, let's click on change organizational unit and let's choose sales and then let's click continue. Finally, let's confirm clicking on change. Now Aaron will take all the policies that will be applied to the sales organizational unit. Let's now see how to manage organizational units. If we go into the admin center, then directory, then organizational units, we can find the list of all our organizational units. Actually, there's no much that we can do in this area because we can create new organizational units. We can move an organizational unit into another path. Clicking on the ellipsis, we can edit the name and the description of the organizational unit, or finally, we can delete an organizational unit. Organizational units are useful when we manage other options. Let's make an example. Let's imagine that we want to change the options for Gmail behavior. We will be on this later in this course. So let's move to Apps, Google Workspace, and then Gmail. And let's imagine that we want to change the user settings. When we click on User Settings, on the left part of this page, we can find a list of organizational units. So if we click on Sales, whatever we do apply in this area will be changed only for users that are in the sales organizational unit. That actually is only Aaron. So if, for example, we change the theme, if we change this option, we choose this to off, users in sales organizational unit will not have the ability to change and choose their own theme. Same things for email read receipts and several others. Now let's start configuring services in Google Workspace. Services are available in the Admin Center under Apps. We have three types of services. First ones are called Core Services, and they are under the Google Workspace area. Second one are Additional Google Services, available under Additional Google Services area. Third one are Third-Party Google Services, available under Google Workspace Marketplace Apps. These services can be obtained or purchased by the Google Workspace Marketplace. Let's start with the main core Google Workspace service, that is Gmail. So under Google Workspace, let's click on Gmail. First option is to set service status on or off for everyone. Service status can be set up at account level for all users or singularly at organizational unit level. For instance, we can provide Gmail service for sales organizational unit users, and we can decide that users in the organizational unit marketing group will not have Gmail for our account. If we want to revert to the previous page, we can use this option on the top left of the page. This option is called Breadcrumb. So now we are under service status, we revert to settings for Gmail. Another very useful area is user settings. Under user settings, we can configure several options, most of them both at account level or at organizational unit level. For example, we can activate smart features and personalization. We can let users decide their own theme for their Gmail account. We can allow or deny email read receipts for all users or for specific allow-listed domains. We can let the user to delegate someone else to read and send email on their behalf, and some more. Let's revert to settings for Gmail. Another very useful option is Authenticate Email. We've already seen this option when we have configured the DKIM records in the DNS for email authentication. Finally, we have several other user options, but let's see the last one, routing. With routing, we can decide several routing features. For example, what we can do is to create a catch-all email address. A catch-all email address is an email address that is used to catch all the emails that are sent under the good domain but the wrong email address. Let's make an example. The users I'm logged in at this moment is sto@trainingxyz.com. Let's imagine that someone sends an email to Stephen@trainingxyz.com. There is no such email under this account. So if we do not set up the catch-all email address, this email is going to be lost. So what we can do under routing, click on Configure, and in the email messages to effect, let's choose Inbound. Under the For the above types of messages, do the following, choose Modify Message. Let's leave everything unchecked till Envelope Recipient. Under that one, let's check Change Envelope Recipient. Among the three options, let's choose Replace Recipient, and let's put the email address where the email sent to the wrong recipients will land. So let's use our own email address, steo@trainingxyz.com. Let's go down and let's click on Show Options. Under Show Options, Section B, Account Types to Effect, uncheck everything but Unrecognized, check all. Then click on Save. Please remember that when you configure a catch-all email address, all spam email sent to random email addresses in your domain will land in your inbox. So please be careful when you decide to use this option. Okay, we've already seen how to create a group in Google Workspace. What we would like to see now is how to transform a group in a collaborative inbox. What is a collaborative inbox? A collaborative inbox is an inbox that can be shared among different users, but each user can access the inbox with his or her own credentials. This will preserve the accountability about actions done on this inbox and will be compliant with relevant laws and regulations, such as General Data Protection Regulation or GDPR. So first thing to do is creating a group. We've seen how to create a group starting from the admin console. Let's see how to do the same using the Google Groups area. So let's go on groups.google.com and let's click on Create Group. So let's call the group My Collaborative Inbox, and group email will be mycollaborativeinbox@trainingxyz.com. We can optionally give a group description. This is a collaborative inbox. So let's click on Next. Second step is choosing permissions. So we want the collaborative inbox only for invited users. All group owners, group members, and group managers can view conversation. Entire organization can post, and only group owners can see members. Let's click on Next. Let's add the members. So I want to add Aaron, I want to add Barbara, and I want to add Kola. Myself, that is Stephen, is the group owner. We can send a welcome message, and we can choose the subscription type. Let's leave each email, and we can leave the option to directly add members. If we click on it, we need to send invites to join group, and after that, members needs to accept the invitation. Let's leave directly add members, and let's click on Create Group. So now we have created a group that is not yet a collaborative inbox. How can we transform this group in a collaborative inbox? Let's click on the group. Let's go on Group Settings, and under Enable Additional Google Group Features, let's click on Collaborative Inbox. Then we can click on Save Changes. Another thing that we can do afterwards is to tweak the permissions that we set up at the beginning. To do so, we can go on Posting Policies, and on the bottom part, we can find permissions, more granular than the one that we've chosen when we have created the group. And that's it. We have created our collaborative inbox. Another very popular application in Google Workspace environment is Google Drive. We can granularly set up the behavior of this app through the Google Admin Center. So let's click on Apps, Google Workspace, and then Drive and Docs. As you can see, we have a lot of settings. First of all, we can decide if we want to set up on or off the service status for everyone in the organization or for everyone in a specific organizational unit. This means that if you want that some of the users in your organization will not be able to use Google Drive, it's enough that you create a specific organizational unit and you disable the service status option for that organizational unit. All the users within that organizational unit will not be able to use Google Drive. Another very useful option is about sharing settings. Here you have several sharing options. Among them, the option for users in your organization to share files and folders outside your organization. You can select up to 5 target audiences that you want to recommend users to share with. You can decide what is the default access behavior when users in your organization create items, and you can regulate what is the shared drive behavior. Shared drives are very similar to the shared folders, but instead of creating a folders that is owned by a single user, you will create an entire drive that can be shared among different users with different permissions. Shared drives can be created directly from drive.google.com. You go in the shared drives area, you click on New, and you can create a new shared drive. Within the shared drive, you can add members. Let's imagine that we want to add Aaron, and we can choose between manager, let's say the owner, one of the owner of the shared drive, or content manager that will not be able to manage people and settings, or contributor that will not be able to delete and share content, or commenter and viewer. You already know what a commenter and viewer can do. Okay, let's choose manager and let's click on send. Now Aaron and Stephen, that's myself, are 2 of the managers of the shared drive. Again, the manager is the owner of a shared drive. If we want to centrally manage shared drives, we can do so within Drive and Docs Share Settings, Shared Drive Creation options. Okay, let's go back to the general settings. We will skip approvals and labels. From here, from Google Forms area, we will be able to enable or disable Google Forms for the entire organization or for specific organizational units. From here, we can centrally manage a shared drive. Please consider that I only have personal access to the test shared drive, but as a super administrator, I can manage all shared drives within the admin console. I can also transfer ownership of file from a specific user to another user. This feature is very useful, for example, when an employee leaves your organization. Maybe this employee was managing very important company files. Well, in accordance with your law office that will grant that everything goes accordingly to rules, laws, and regulations, you can transfer the ownership of all the files from the leaving users to another one that is still in your organization. Lastly, you can manage the Google Drive for Desktop behavior. So you can allow Google Drive for Desktop in your organization so that users can use the synchronization option on their own desktop. You can choose to limit the Google Drive for Desktop only on authorized device. You can decide to show up or not the Google Drive for Desktop download link in the Google Drive area. And you can also allow users to enable real-time presence even when they work in files that are not native Google files, such as Microsoft Office files. These are the main settings that you need to consider when you want to manage Google Drive. One of the most used and famous app in Google Workspace environment is Google Calendar. Google Calendar can be managed from the admin console, clicking on Apps, Google Workspace, Calendar. As for all the other apps, the first thing that we can manage is the service status that can be on or off for the entire organization, or can be on or off for specific organizational units. Let's click on the main sharing settings. In Google Calendar, let's have a look at Calendar that can be reached typing calendar.google.com. In Google Calendar, as default option, we have more than one calendar. The first one is the primary calendar, and then we can have one or more secondary calendar. The features in this area are mainly intended for the primary calendar. So first thing, we can set up our working location. If you've seen, when I've opened my calendar, I've been prompted to choose my working location. I've skipped that, but still in the top right part of my screen, I can choose to set up my working location. If I don't want to, I can click on Dismiss. Second one is what is the default sharing option for my primary calendars. The default option is only free busy information. Of course, I can change this option. And please remember that this is only the default option. This means that each single user can change this option within his or her own calendar. Internal sharing option for primary calendars is share all information. So it means that as a default option, when I share my calendar with a user outside of my organization, this user will only see if I'm free or busy at a specific time of the day. When I do the same thing with a colleague from my company, he or her will be able to see all the relevant information. Then there is the integration between Google Calendar and Google Meet. First option is to make Google Meet the default video conferencing provider when available. And the second option is to automatically add video conferencing to events that user creates. Please remind that the video conferencing option will be automatically added in two circumstances. First one is that this feature, this checkbox, automatically add video conferencing to events user creates, needs to be checked. The second one is that I need to invite at least one user in the conference. External invitation. External invitation is the option to warn internal users when inviting guests outside our domains. I can also choose if I want to set up which are the company working hours or not. These will have effects on other things that we will show up in 2 minutes. We can also display calendar status in Google Workspace, so we can show within Google Workspace that users are out of office according to the calendar status. And this is why we should set up our working hours. We can show within Google Workspace that the user is in a meeting according to the calendar status, when users is having a Google Meet. We can show within Google Workspace that users are in a focus time according to their calendar status. Second important thing is resources. What is a resource? A resource is a company tool that can be booked, for example, a training room or a projector or something else. Resources have a Google Workspace account that is special to that resource. We can add building and we can add resource one by one, or we can upload in bulk. Why should we add building? Adding building is used to categorize resources. For example, let's imagine that our company has 3 different floors in 3 different buildings, and each floor of each building has a printer. In this way, we can add each specific printer to the specific floor of the specific building where it is. So let's revert to configuration and let's go to general setting. General settings are basically the same of sharing settings, let's say reduced version of sharing settings, but intended for secondary calendars. Also, we have a Manage Events area. We can say that Manage Events area is basically the same of transfer ownership or of Google Drives and Docs. For example, before suspending former users, we can cancel their future events so that these can ensure that their events are not orphaned and that calendar resources are not blocked into the future. Differently, we can transfer events from a user to another, so we can choose to release resources for a specific users or to transfer events for another users. Also, we can enable the option to silently cancel future events of deleted users. Advanced settings. In advanced settings, we can choose which invitations will be added to users' calendar. So the options are invitations from everyone inside or outside our organization, invitations only from known sender, meaning the people that are in the contacts list, or invitations user have responded via email. Another important option is Calendar Web Offline that allow using calendar on the web when offline and syncing the calendar when the user reverts online. We can also allow appointment schedule users to require payments for booked appointments through their own payment provider accounts. And that's basically it for the main configuration that we can find in the calendar area. Now let's see how to set up and configure Google Meet. From the Google Admin Center, admin.google.com, let's click on Apps, then Google Workspace, and then Google Meet. Okay, as usual, we can turn on and off this feature for all users in the organization or for specific organizational units. Then let's have a look at smart features and personalization. So we can do not set a default value for all users, so each user can choose at the beginning if he or she wants to turn on or off smart features and personalization, or we can decide to turn on smart features and personalization for Gmail Chat and Meet, and or for other Google products. Please remember that these will be the default value, meaning that each single user will be able to change this value afterwards. Let's move on and let's have a look at video settings. Again, these features can be modified for all the users or for specific organizational units. The first important one is to turn on or off reactions to be used in video calls by user. The second one is recording. We can enable or disable people from the option to record their meetings. Third one is about default video recording quality. We can choose if people will be able to record at the highest available resolution when conditions allow, and video recording quality will adapt to network and system conditions. If this feature is turned off, recording is limited to a maximum of 720p, and this applies only to recording presentation and screen sharing and not to camera videos. We can also change the default video quality. We can choose as default option an adaptive quality that will be automatically adapted based on web bandwidth. We can choose a limited video bandwidth, where the uplink video bandwidth is limited to 1 megabit per second as a default option, or we can choose audio only, where uplink video is turned off by default. Furthermore, we can enable or disable meeting transcript. Please remember that meeting transcripts are actually available only in some languages. At the moment that this video is recorded, is only available in 6 languages. Legacy services. We can enable users to make or receive legacy calls and send video messages using duotypes. Very important is about attendance recording. If this feature is checked on, it provides moderators standard reports after the meeting immediately in their email. Let's see how to set up and configure Google Chat. Again, we need to go on the Google Admin Center at admin.google.com, then click on Apps, Google Workspace, and then Google Chat. Google Chat is available inside the Gmail area under Chat. As usual, we can turn on or off this feature for all users in the company or for specific organizational units. We can manage spaces. Spaces are basically group chats that are available in the bottom left part of the Google Chat area. We can create or find a space clicking on this link, so we can create a space, adding users. Smart features and personalization, we won't see this feature as we've seen already. It's exactly the same in Google Meet. Regardless if we set it up in Google Meet or in Google Chat, it will be available for both. After that, we can choose what we want to do with the history for chats and for spaces. Let's have a look at the first one. We can set history on or off for the chat, meaning that users will be able to see or not the previous history of their chat with single users. Remember that these first features is only intended for chats and not for spaces. The last checkbox is used to allow users to change their history settings. So in the actual configuration, history is on for all users in the company, but users will be able to change their history to off. Same thing can be done for spaces. In this case, users will not be able to change the default behavior that the administrator have chosen. We can choose auto deletion option for messages. So we can enable auto deletion option for one-to-one direct messages, and if enabled, we can choose the number of days to retain messages before auto deletion. We can choose auto deletion for group direct messages, and again, we can enable, and in that case, choose the number of days to retain messages. And finally, we can choose auto deletion option for spaces. Chat file sharing. So we can allow external file sharing of all files, of images only or no files, and we can choose the same thing for internal file sharing. Chat invitation. We can automatically choose to accept invitation between users at Training XYZ company for the whole company or for single organizational unit. If we choose off, users will be prompted to manually accept or decline invitations for chat. External chat settings. We can enable users to chat externally or not. If this feature is enabled, we can further tweak it, allowing only allow listed domains for chatting with external users. And in this case, rooms owned by allow listed domains may contain other external users. There is also a link that will redirect us to the page to manage allow listed domains. Same things for external spaces. The options are exactly the same, so no need to command them. Finally, let's have a look at sharing settings. When we share a file in Google Chat, we can choose a target audience. The primary target audience is the whole company, but we can choose up to 4 more. Finally, we can choose when users in Training XYZ create new spaces, the default space access will be restricted, meaning that only added people in groups can find and join the space, or primary target audience, the one that we've set up above, meaning that anyone in this group can find and join the space. Let's now see how to manage third-party applications. Third-party applications are manageable to the Google Admin Center at admin.google.com, apps, and then we can choose 2 options. First one is web and mobile apps. Here we can add app, we can search for specific apps, we can add a private Android app, we can add a private Android Wear app, or we can add a custom SAML app. Let's now make an example on how to add an Android app. Let's click on Add App, Add Private Android App, scroll down, click on Plus button, just choose a title of the app, and after that, clicking on APK, we just need to upload the IPK file of the Android app. Another option that we have is to manage apps that are available on the Google Workspace Marketplace. So if we click on Google Workspace Marketplace app and then we click on Apps List, we can find apps already installed at domain level. So we have 2 main options. One is Install App. Install App will install that specific app for all the users in the domain or in the specified organizational unit. Allow List app will just allow list that app for all the users in the domain or in the specified organizational unit, meaning that the app will not be installed for the users, but the users will be able to manually install it from the marketplace. Let's make an example on how to install an app. From the screen, click on Install App and the marketplace will open. Let's choose the app, for example, AO Docs. Let's click on it. And then we can click on Admin Install. After that, we can click on Continue. We will confirm the settings, and then we can choose if we want to install this app for everyone in your organization, or for specific groups, or for specific organizational units. At the end, we just need to agree to the application's terms of service, privacy policy, and the terms of service of Google Marketplace, and then we finish. Now talk about Workspace Endpoint Management. Workspace Endpoint Management offers a comprehensive solution for managing and securing your organization's devices. Let's have a look at an overview of Workspace Endpoint Management, including its key features and benefits. Endpoint management is an essential tool for keeping company data secure. With Workspace Endpoint Management, administrators can require screen locks and strong passwords, erase confidential data with device wipe or selective account wipe for Android and iOS devices, and block access to specific Windows, Chrome OS, Linux, and macOS sessions. By enforcing endpoint security policies and monitoring endpoint activity, Workspace Endpoint Management helps organizations protect sensitive information and maintain compliance. Google Workspace Endpoint Management simplifies the process of managing devices in your organization. With agentless endpoint management, you can enforce passcodes and wipe specific accounts without installing software on a user's Android and iOS device. This feature is on by default. Additionally, you can manage and secure Windows 10 devices through the Admin console. This allows you to control policies and security management for both devices and applications, and you can easily track inventory for both as well. Distribute business applications from the Admin console on Google Play and Apple's App Store is easy with endpoint management. Additionally, you can host internal-only Android apps in the Play private channel. Bring your own device, or BYOD policies, can be a cost-effective and efficient way to allow employees to use their personal devices at work. However, having a multitude of personal devices connected to the company network can open up security vulnerabilities. Google Workspace Endpoint Management provides a way to keep company data safe while still enabling Bring Your Own Devices policies. Endpoint management allows you to enforce passcodes and wipe specific accounts without installing software on a user's Android and iOS device with agentless endpoint management. Again, this feature is on by default. Deploy new devices quickly and easily with Google Workspace Endpoint Management. As soon as a device is enrolled, all Wi-Fi and email configurations, including server-side certificates, are pushed instantly. This means employees can be productive right away without any delays. This feature saves time and increases productivity, boosting your bottom line. Android's Business App Separation feature allows employees to keep their work and personal apps separate on the same device without sacrificing any convenience. Additionally, setting up company-owned devices is easy thanks to Android's additional security settings. These features include enforced encryption and screen locks, as well as the ability to remotely wipe a device in the event that is lost or stolen. Endpoint management is included with every Google Workspace license, so there is no additional cost for it. However, certain advanced features, such as app management and device management, require business or enterprise licenses. Endpoint management is a critical component of any organization's security infrastructure. With Google Workspace, your admins can enforce policies across a variety of devices, including Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows. This means your employees can choose the device they are comfortable with to get work done, with the confidence that their work is secure. Additionally, access from any Windows, macOS, Chrome OS, and Linux device is logged and can be blocked if needed, providing an additional layer of security. Mobile device management is turned on by default. If you eventually turn it off by any chance, you can re-enable it following this path. In the Admin console at admin.google.com, go onto Devices, then choose the Mobiles and Endpoints, then Settings, and then Universal. In this area, you can click on General, and then choose Mobile Management. You can choose Basic Agentless Mobile Device Management that only applies simple password controls and wipe work accounts, including compromised device protection, Advanced that requires the Device Policy app that enforces password requirements, manages apps, and remote device wipe, includes also compromised device protection, Custom, we can choose each single features that needs to be applied or not, or we can turn off mobile device management, so the devices will be unmanaged. Again, we can do the same for password requirement. We can require users to set up a password in different flavors. The first one is basic. Any screen lock is okay. The second one is standard. No pattern is allowed, but you can use any characters. The strongest one is the strong. At least one character, at least one number, and at least one symbol. If you want to have an overview of devices that are in your company, you can go into Devices, Mobile and Endpoints, and see Devices. So let's look at Steven's Windows, that is me. I want to see some information, I want to audit some information about login of this user. Let's click on the three dots on the bottom right and choose View Audit Info. Here are the relevant information with the device ID, date and time, type of event, device sync event, description, user email, and device type. These are some of the main features of mobile device management. Now talk about security in Google Workspace. So let's go on admin.google.com and then let's move to Security area. First thing to look is the overview. In the overview window, you will find the main information about managing security in Google Workspace. First one is the Alert Center. The Alert Center keeps track of alerts happening throughout the time. On the first part of each alert, we found a graphic symbol. The first one is an apps outage graphic symbol. For example, the last updated at May 2nd, 2024 at 1:46 a.m. tells that there was an apps outage with Gmail that has been resolved. If we want to see details, we can click on it and we will find detailed information, including the tracking ID, the status, the details, the affected services, and the intended resolution by. Apart from that, there are some more information in the bottom part of the page, and we can leave a comment below the alert history title. The second one is reporting rule that has been matched. For example, this one is Jess Stratton login success report rule. Probably Jess Stratton successfully logged in on October the 16th, 2023. The person who created the rule also set a severity level of medium. The third one is a Google mandatory service announcement legal. Let's click on this for details. For example, here we can see that there is a legal notice, updates to cloud data processing addendum, Google Workspace service specific terms, and adoption of alternative transfer solution. And there is another one that informs us when an APNS certificate is expired. As you can see, both mandatory service announcement legal and APNS certificate expired have a severity level of I. Let's go back to the overview and now let's move to the rules. We've seen rules already when we talked about reporting. So we can create a new rule, click on Create Rule, Reporting. We will not go through this as we've been already. Let's go back on Security Overview. And now, let's have a look at data protection. Data protection, first of all, informs us about insights for Google Drive. So there has been one global email address shared externally, number of files with data type, and percentage of shared externally. Global gender identity, 2 files shared with data type externally, and global phone number, 6 number of files shared with that specific data type. We can protect our organization's sensitive data in 2 ways, depending on the level of licensing that we are using. The first one, we can manually set external sharing settings for Drive, organized by organizational unit or group. The second one needs an enterprise edition of Google Workspace. In that case, we can scan for Drive file with content detectors and we can set rules accordingly. On the bottom part, we can set data protection settings. Specifically, there are data inside scanning and report options. For Google Drive only, we can perform scans of Drive files and generate data protection inside reports on how many files with sensitive content were shared externally. For Google Chrome, there is a new option that lets us perform scans and generate Chrome data protection insights for content downloaded uploaded, or printed in Chrome. We can change this option clicking on the pencil. Let's move on and let's have a look at some more advanced security settings. Let's move to data classification. Data classification uses the power of artificial intelligence to create classifier and label sensitive data. This is a very new feature that uses the power of modern artificial intelligence to help us in automatically classifying and labeling data, so we can set up training and move on. After that, we can manage the default classification for Google Drive and Google Doc, clicking on Manage. Here, we can manually create labels and apply them to the files. Let's revert to Security Overview. Here, we can set up passwordless authentication. Enabling this option, we can allow our users to skip passwords at signing using the passkeys. Passwordless authentication, also known with the name of frictionless authentication, enhances the level of general security, avoiding the users to type in password that can be easily recognized afterwards. Let's move back to the overview. Moving on, and remembering that passwordless authentication is actually in the beta testing phase, let's have a look at the password management. First thing, we can enforce strong password. If we want to exactly know what a strong password is, we can click on the Learn More, where we have information about the requirements for a strong password. Generally speaking, strong password does not contain any personal information that can be easily recognizable. A strong password is easy to remember but hard to guess. Then we can set up the length of the password, minimum and maximum. We can enforce the password policy at the next sign-in, this meaning that if the user's password does not meet the password requirements, the user will be prompted and forced to change his or her password. We can allow password reuse, meaning that when the user changes the password, can reuse the old one. The best option would be to clear this checkbox, and we can also set an expiration time for the password from never to 365 days. Password options can be set up on a domain level or organizational unit level. Let's move back to the Overview Center. And let's have a look at less secure app security settings. Within this area, we can allow users to manage their access to less secure apps, or, recommended, we can force users to disable access to less secure apps. In any case, this option will be deprecated very soon in summer of 2024, and Google Workspace accounts will no longer support less secure apps, as they pose a significant security problem in the account. Less secure apps ask us to sign in to our Google account just with username and password. If we still want to use external applications and third-party applications, we must use the OAuth option. If you want to prepare for this change, you can click on the Transition from Less Secure Apps to OAuth article. Let's move back to the overview, and let's have a look at this two-step verification. First thing, we can allow users to turn on two-step verification, also known as MFA or multi-factor authentication. The best option would be to enable multi-factor authentication, as this increases the level of security of our personal account of 99% on account forgery. Furthermore, we can enforce the use of two-step verification, this meaning that the user will not be able to log on their account if they do not use two-step verification. We can choose to enforce this immediately or from a specific moment in time. We can allow new users some time to enroll before enforcement is applied. That can be from none to 6 months. We can also choose that users can avoid repeated two-step verification at login on their trusted device, allowing users to trust their device. We can also choose which methods will be allowed for two-step verification. Any method except verification codes using text and phone call, or only security keys. We can let users temporarily sign in with the verification codes in addition to the security keys, and the user exceptions period starts when we generate the verification code. And finally, there are security codes. Security codes are single-use codes that can be used when the security keys are not supported. Users can generate these codes from the URL that is shown here. We can choose not to allow users to generate security codes. We can choose to allow security codes without remote access, and we can also choose to allow security codes with remote access. Let's now talk about Google Vault. Google Vault is an information governance and e-discovery tool for Google Workspace that helps you manage, retain, search, and export your organization's email and chat messages, as well as files in Google Drive. It also can be used to archive an organization's email messages and on-the-record chats, including Google Chat, Meet recording and associated chat, Q&A and pulse logs, as well as messages from other Google Workspace apps, such as Google Groups and Classic Hangouts. Google Voice for Google Workspace text messages, voicemails, and their transcripts and call logs can also be archived. Additionally, information on Google sites can be retained. Google Vault ensures the safety and security of valuable organizational information while allowing for easy access to it when needed. Google Vault is a powerful tool designed to help organizations manage their data. It allows you to retain, hold, search, and export your users' workspace data in a secure and efficient manner, reducing the risk of data loss and making it easier to comply with legal and regulatory requirements. The tool helps organizations to manage their email and chat messages, as well as files in Google Drive. With Google Vault, you can easily archive your organization's email messages and on-the-record chats. In order to use Vault, users must have a Google Workspace license and, additionally, a Vault license. Vault licenses are included in certain Google Workspace editions and can be added for Google Workspace business users. Licenses must be assigned to individual users in order for Vault to search and retain their data. With Google Vault, you can retain data for as long as you need it, or remove data when you no longer need it. It can be done using Vault retention rules, an easy and effective way to centrally manage your organization's data. While Vault is not a data archive, when data is purged after a retention period ends, it can be recovered by specific users or admins. With the help of Vault, authorized users can easily search for data, put data on hold, and export it for further analysis. Vault supports the first steps of the e-discovery process outlined by the Electronic Discovery Reference Model, or EDRM: identification, preservation, and collection. Once data is searched and found, you can easily put data on hold and export it for further analysis. It is important to note that a data export is available in Vault for 15 days. Then the export is deleted to protect that data. With Vault, you can search your organization's Google Workspace data by user account, by organizational unit, by date, or by keyword. Most services support Boolean operator searches. This allows you to easily identify relevant data that you may need for e-discovery. Additionally, Vault allows you to preview messages, attachments, and supported files before making an export. These features can save you time and help ensure you only export data that is relevant. Access control is necessary to ensure only authorized users have access to your organization's data, and Vault provides various mechanisms for controlling access to it. You can turn on Vault for selected organizational units and assign the organizational units to an admin role with Vault privileges. This ensures that only authorized users have access to your organization's data. Additionally, Vault provides complete audit logs of users' activity in Vault, including when a user creates or edits a retention rule, runs a search, or exports data. So, let's summarize the steps to get started with Google Vault. First thing to do is to purchase Vault licenses for Google Workspace if not included in your edition. The second one is to set up user access and Vault privileges. Then you need to set up default or custom retention rules, working with legal or compliance team to determine the most appropriate. And at the end, you can get started with Google Search and export. Let's share an example. Here is vault.google.com. So let's go to retention, and here we have default rules. We have default rules about Gmail, Drive, Groups, Chat, Meet, and other applications. So let's create now a custom rule. Let's click on Custom Rules, Create, choose a service, for example, Gmail, click on Continue, choose an organizational unit, so Classroom LinkedIn Learning, let's click on Continue. Let's choose conditions, so dates, terms, I want to find exfiltration, let's click on Continue, and the duration and action. So I want to go back, click on back, I want to search from 1st of May 2024 till 11th May 2024. When I'm done, I can click on Create. Let's now have a look at the monitoring features of the Google Workspace Admin console. So first thing to do is going to admin.google.com, and let's move on the left on the reporting area. First thing, we have an overview section where we can see an overview of the main reports available in our area. Then we have different sections. If we want to have a look at reports based on apps, we have the section of app reports. As you can see, there are a lot of available areas: accounts reports, Gmail reports, app script if used, Google Classroom reports, Google Drive reports, Google Meet and Google Chat reports, Google Voice reports, data region reports, AP controls reports, and user activity pivoted by apps and data source. Let's have a look at Gmail user, for instance. Okay, we have aggregated reports. So, for example, in the first report, we have an overlook on the total emails sent, blue line, and received, orange line. Let's move to Google Classroom. Google Classroom is not used, as you can see, in this account. Let's move to Google Drive. External shares. We have some external shares with outside domain. We have also internal shares as private shares or anyone in the domain shares. Some file added on between October and November 2023, and also some active users. Here is the report for monthly active users. Now let's have a look at user reports, for example, accounts. User reports can be pivoted by accounts, can be pivoted by apps usage or by security. Here we have a list of our users. So the user account status, we can look at the admin status, if any, the two-step verification enrollment, if a user has enrolled or not, the two-steps verification enforcement. So enrollment means that the user can enroll. The enforcement means that the user must enforce the two-step verification before signing in. Check if the password leg is compliant with company policies. Check the password strength. For example, Katarina Sierra has a weak password, and if the less secure app's access is allowed or denied. Furthermore, we can have an overview about Gmail storage. Same thing is for devices. So let's have a look at the mobile devices managed. There are no mobile device managed. Chrome operating system and browser, no one is managed. Apps, let's revert. So basically, there is no mobile device management in this account. Finally, we have audit and investigation, where we can query our logs to find useful information for incident response and other security-related incidents. And most important, we have an email log search. Email log search is used to search inside emails from users in our account. As we mentioned in the previous video, the Google Admin Console has several tools that can be used for tracking and analyzing trends. We can take any of the reports, for example, the status of different accounts, and we can download the reports in a Google Sheets or in a CSV file, as we prefer. Please remember that when you download a file in a Google Sheets, the file can be considered as original because every subsequent change will be tracked by Google Workspace. Another way to track and analyze trends and reports is using one of the query editors that we have available. such as email log search. So let's imagine that we want to have an overlook at all the emails sent and received in the last week. Let's choose all messages in the last days in the email log search. Let's click on search. And here we have all messages sent and received in the last week. So for example, lead with data win the market is a message received on April 8th because it comes from an external sender. Daily agenda for Jess Stratton as of 5 a.m. is a message sent because the sender is Jess at trainingsyz.com, that is internal sender. We have also other reports. For example, we can choose user log events. So in the user log events, we can apply filters, or we can search and see all the users. So for example, login type, Google password reauthentication, Google password reauthentication. If we want to filter, we can add the filter where the login type is Google password. Let's apply a filter, search again, and we will find all the events where the login type is Google password. We can also change the columns that are shown in the report. Clicking on the gear on the top right, we can change the column or we can add a new one. So for example, if we don't want to show the sensitive action name, we can click on the cross at its right side and we will not see the sensitive action name. Finally, we can export the result of our query clicking on Export All button. Again, we can choose to export the results in a Google Sheet or in a CSV file. If we want to change the type of log events that we want to track, we can click on the drop-down menu on the top left and choose a new one. So, for example, if we want to have a look at the admin log events, let's click on Search, and we will see all the admin actions. So let's imagine that we want to see all the admin actions that my demo users has done inside this account. Again, let's click on Add a filter, let's choose Actor, and let's choose Stephen Tao. Let's apply, search. Here are all the log events tracked for this user account. To create our own reporting rules. How can we do? So first thing, let's move into the security area. Let's click on the Alert Center and let's click on Manage Email and Alert Notification. Now let's click on Create Rule and then let's click on Reporting. So let's imagine that I want a rule that informs the main administrator of every time that Stephen logs in into the Google Workspace. So let's call this rule Stephen Tao Successful Logins. We leave the description blank. Next, let's see View Conditions. So let's choose the data source. Data source in this case is user log events, of course, and let's change the approach. Instead of using a filter, let's use a condition builder. So the first condition is that the affected users is Stephen Tao. And we add another condition where the event is successful login. If we want to add only suspicious login to this report, we can add another condition, choosing that event is a suspicious login. For example, with less secure app. Let's add an action. We can send this report to the Alert Center, and we can send an email, for example, to a specific administrator. Let's say administrator admin. Okay. We can also choose a severity that is high in this case. Finally, we can review the rule and create if necessary. Let's now see some common techniques to solve the most common problems that you can find in Google Workspace. The first section that you have to consult is, of course, inside the Admin Center at admin.google.com. So depending on the app that is causing problem to you or to your users, you can consult the relevant reporting section. So you can click on Reporting and choose the relevant report. We have already seen a very useful tool that is Email Log Search. Email Log Search will let you search all the messages with specified criteria. We've seen that we have some predefined search options or custom search options. So let's have a look at all the messages from today. Here we find two messages. Let's imagine that a user says that the message did not land in his or her landbox. Let's click on the message and we can see here that the message was correctly delivered. There are a lot of useful reports apart from this, so we can look at app reports. So if we have, for example, a problem with the accounts, let's click on accounts and we can see if there is any general problem. Or, for example, user reports. Let's have a look at user report accounts. Okay, we can have a detailed view of users. So we can see the status of the user account. We can see if the user has any admin powers. We can see if there is a two-step verification, if it is enrolled or if it is enforced, so it's mandatory, if the password length is compliant or not, if the password is strong. So, for example, we can see that Ana Perez has a weak password as well as Catalina Sierra. We can see if they are using less secure app and it is denied or approved, Gmail storage, and a lot of useful information. We can scroll horizontally and see a lot of useful information. Another problem that users can encounter in Google Workspace is a service that is not working. So one of the first things to do is to check if the public status of that service is correctly on or is facing issues. We have a specific console for this that is Google Workspace Status Dashboard, reachable at google.com/appsstatus/dashboard. So we can see, for example, that there is some problem between the 3rd and the 4th of June on Chrome OS. If you click on the eye, we will see what is the problem with a detailed description. Okay, there was another one between May the 30th and the 31st on Google Drive. Let's click on it. We can see what the problem was. If we are not able to solve the issue using these tools, there is another chance, that is asking support to Google. For this, there is another specific portal that is called Google Cloud Support Portal. It is reachable at support.cloud.google.com/portal/create-case. Okay, if I want to open another case, I choose the option, I choose the issues type, describe the issue, test issue. I can select a category. So, for example, is it technical, about calendar? Let's say calendar settings, okay? Then I have to choose the impact. So from P4, low impact, the service is fully usable, to P3, medium impact, the service is partially impaired, P2, the service is severely impaired, and finally P1, the service is not usable in production. Of course, we can choose whatever priority we do want, but the Google support may change the level of priority based on the information that they get. We can choose a language selection, and finally, we can add the detailed description with some formatting option in this area. For some technical issues, there is already a list of information that could be useful to share with Google technical support. We can also add some attachments, and we can add subscribers. So, for example, if I want to add another person, let's say personal email of the administrator, let's call administrator@gmail.com. Okay, and others as far as I want. Finally, I can choose the preferred time zone and click on Submit. Once a case has been submitted, I can find this information inside the all cases. This is a test domain, so we have no cases. This section is divided into two parts. My cases, that are the cases for this account that have been opened by me or in which I'm one of the subscribers. And for my domain, that are cases that are specific opened for my domain in which I'm not the person who opened the case and I'm not a subscriber. System status, we can have a look at the system status. We've seen the Google Workspace status dashboard. Okay, now this is more detailed. We have some problem in Google Cloud, but not in Google Workspace. It's basically the same as the previous one with a different view. We can click on the arrow to see more details. We can choose between Google Cloud, Google Workspace, and Google Maps. Finally, into the settings, we can choose if we want to grant some privilege to our partners if we bought licenses through a partner rather from direct selling from Google, or we can choose portal user interface into the dark mode. Okay, if you went through all this course, the most is done. So if you want to prepare for your Google Workspace professional certification, next thing that you have to do is to go through official Google Workspace preparation tools. So you can go on cloud.google.com/learn/training/workspace. And first, you can have a look at the Workspace Business User Learning Path, where you will have courses about Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Docs, Sheets, Slides, Meet, Chat, Google Sheets Advanced, and begin with Workspace Essentials. After that, you can work on prepare for the Professional Workspace Administration Certification exam. Here are all the official topics, and here you have all the information about your exam. So length is 2 hours, the fee is $200. You can take it in English or in Japanese. You will find 50 to 60 multiple choice and multiple select question. The exam delivery can be taken online proctored exam from a remote location, or you can take the on-site proctored exam at a Criterion testing center. So the recommended experience before taking the exam is 3 years of industry experience, including 1 or plus years of Google Workspace administration experience, and requirements for certification, renewal, or recertification is that you need to recertify it at least 60 days in advance the certification expires. So exam guide is available here. Here is the official exam guide. You can register and you can go over all the contents. You can follow the learning path. So you can take a webinar. If available, you can sign up, or you can have a look at additional resources. You can also review sample exam questions to check if you're ready for your exam. And when you've done, you can register and select for your professional Google Workspace Administrator exam. So break a leg for your exam, and I hope to see you here.
Are you happy now?